Peace. Infinite waters diving deep once again. Shout out to all of you wonderful deep divers. I hope you're taking care of yourself. That was beautiful. Whoa. Breathing in that good ass prana, baby. What are we doing? Raising the frequency. Raising the vibration. Look, deep divers, I hope you're keeping your frequency high. Let's talk about France. So much is going on in France right now. You have a lot of people protesting, a lot of people very unhappy because the 17-year-old Niel was gunned down by a police officer, got a bullet lodged in his brain in a simple traffic stop. The police said he didn't do as they said. He kept on driving, so they just did that. And a lot of people in France is crazy there. You know, a lot of people are very upset. And also there is a lot of division because some people are like, actually, what the police did were right. And some people are saying, no, it's not right. And then there is like a kind of race war going on there. All kind of things. I want everybody first and foremost to hit that like button if you support the real. Deep divers, hit that like button if you support the real. We got a whole lot to talk about, things they're not telling you. Now, I always tell you, anytime there's like a big story, we're going to use this to see the lesson to be learned. And even in this tragic, unfortunate situation, we can still remind ourselves that this is a lesson when we talk of becoming our greatest versions, to see what's actually happening. We can always learn from any situation or circumstance. And there's always a positive in every negative situation. So deep divers, are you ready to dive deep? The cat down the road is. So I just want to send some good energy to the family of Niel. That's his mother right there. This 17-year-old boy got tragically gunned down by a police officer in France, and it was over a routine traffic stop, and the police said he kept driving, so the police officer shot him. And it's been crazy in France because you see a lot of people are actually using this as an opportunity to go and loot stores, which I don't condone. That's terrible, right? A lot of people as well are saying, hey, those immigrants shouldn't be in our country, right? So a lot of people are turning it into a race thing. We're going to dive deep. Are you ready to dive deep, deep divers? Because there is so much we can uncover and unravel. Are you ready, deep divers? Because that's what we do here. I'm not here to give you the news. I'm here to break down the news. I watch the news to see what they're not saying. What? Slow motion this side. And we ain't even had breakfast yet, deep divers. Can I get a hello? First and foremost, let love guide you and not fear. Let love guide you and not fear. I want to remind you, deep divers, to keep focusing on yourself. There are so many things happening in the world. It's hard to keep up, but don't get distracted out here. Don't get distracted with what's happening in France. Focus on yourself and create peace within yourself, because the truth is, we must become the change we wish to see in the world. Once we are peaceful, the world out there becomes peaceful. The media can make you hate someone else you've never met. And in France, there are a lot of people who are like, yes, those immigrants should be kicked out of the country and France will be peaceful. I actually went to France, deep divers, when I was younger. I actually went to school there. French exchange. Born in London, went to France there, went to France, and it was very interesting. Very interesting. I'll tell you about that experience a bit later. But going back to this tragic situation, only 17, And they're saying, he shouldn't have been driving that car, and he got stopped by the police and unfortunately lost his life in the process. No one deserves, especially a 17-year-old, to have their life taken away over a traffic stop. Now, some people say the police were just doing their job. I'm a criminologist, deep divers, and the police has been charged because it's obvious he shouldn't have done that. Nevertheless, there's a deeper significance in this whole event we have to uncover. So let me actually play you. First of all, let me show you something that Martin Luther King said, because this is really a solution to any of these events. Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. Thank you, Martin. Slow motion. Absolutely. So let me play you the clip of the passenger inside of the car with Nael, because he actually details what actually happened.
Cette vidéo pour rétablir la vérité, car il y a plein de choses fausses qui tournent sur les réseaux, sur la mort de mon copain Naël, et je vais vous raconter l'histoire de A à Z. On s'est retrouvé mardi 27 juin à 8h10, on nous a prêté la Mercedes, on a décidé de faire un tour dans Nanterre, nous étions ni sous alcool, ni sous ballon, ni sous drogue. Au bout de quelques minutes, nous nous sommes retrouvés sur la voie de bus, sur la Joliot-Curie. Nous étions en train de rouler quand j'ai aperçu les motards de la police qui se sont mis à nous suivre. Ils ont mis les gyros. On a fini par s'arrêter au niveau de la rue Pasteur François Arago. Au premier policier est venu à demander à Naël de baisser la fenêtre, ce qu'il a fait, Naël. Il a baissé la fenêtre. Et il lui a dit « coupe le moteur ou je te shoot ». Et il lui a mis un premier coup de crosse. Ensuite, le deuxième est arrivé, il lui a aussi mis un coup de crosse et s'est placé au niveau du pare-brise face à Naël. De là, le premier policier qui est au niveau de la fenêtre lui braque une arme sur la tempe et lui dit « bouge pas ou je te mets une balle dans la tête ». Le second policier lui dit « shoot-le ». Le premier policier lui remet un coup de crosse. La voiture, c'est une boîte auto. La voiture n'était pas sur parking. Au moment où il a reçu le troisième coup de crosse, son pied a lâché la pédale de frein et la voiture a avancé. Et le second policier qui était au niveau du pare-brise a tiré. Du coup, son pied, il a enfoncé l'accélérateur. Je l'ai vu agoniser, il tremblait. On a percuté une barrière. J'ai eu peur. Je suis sorti de la voiture. Je me suis enfui. Je pensais que même moi, il pouvait me tirer dessus. Du coup, j'ai couru. Et là, je suis vraiment choqué ce qu'ils viennent de faire devant moi. En plus, à mon pote.
Right, so you have his friend detailing what happened. Now, taking consideration, deep divers, there are always three sides to every single story. My side, your side, and the actual truth, right? But that was his account, which is very fascinating. And a lot of people in France were also very, very, very angry that meanwhile, while that was happening and there being so much rioting and protesting and looting in France, you had the President Macron, he was doing this.
Cette vidéo pour
So he was at the Elton John concert, and a lot of people in France were furious about that. So deep divers, let me break this down and show you how we can also use this unfortunate situation to get out a positive and help us become our greatest versions. Now, first and foremost, like I said, everybody bleeds red. Everybody bleeds red. Don't get lulled into this whole thing that, hey, I don't like these other people, right? That's the trap. Because you got to remind yourself, in the Matrix, they divide you through race, religion. All of these things are mechanisms in place to keep you divided. On the top, they all work together. That's first and foremost. Secondly, like Martin Luther King said, hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. So, yes, it is terrible. Niall lost his life at 17. Unacceptable. At the same time, you don't drive out hate with hate. You don't start looting, burning down libraries in Marseille and all of these things, and unrest in Paris. That's not the answer as well, because it would just breed more people saying, yeah, you see these immigrants, because he was from Algeria, right? And if you don't know, Algeria was once upon a time a French colony. So you have a lot of Algerians in France and Tunisians in France as well. Tunisia was also a colony of France, right? So what can we learn from this whole situation? We've got to remind ourselves that it's unacceptable. And this has created a kind of tension in France, a kind of civil war, little civil war, right? So you got people saying, hey, we want freedom and this should never happen again. And then you have people who are in France saying, hey, we have to protect France, right? Well, see, for you to understand the present, you must also understand and overstand what happened in the past. So let me just show you this. Do you know what this is, deep divers? A lot of people don't know. That's why I always tell you, knowledge is power. This is the Berlin Conference. And why is the Berlin Conference important? What does the Berlin Conference have to do? What does the Berlin Conference have to do with what's happening in France and anywhere else in Europe or America? Well, the Berlin Conference of 1884-1885, the Berlin Conference was a meeting of 14 nations to discuss territorial disputes in Africa. The meeting was held in Berlin, Germany, from November 1884 to February 1885, and included representatives from the United States and such European nations as Britain, France, and Germany. No Africans were invited to the conference. The Berlin Conference took place at a time when European powers were rushing to establish direct political control in Africa. This race to expand European colonial influence is often referred to as the Scramble for Africa. Europeans called the Berlin meeting because they felt rules were needed to prevent war over claims to African lands, right? So in other words, they wanted to conquer Africa, and that's what they did. This is a little map of African colonization after the Berlin Conference. So you can see Germany has some, British Empire has some, France has some, Spain has some. And this was actually a map of all the countries under French rule, colonial rule, right? So you actually have in the green everything that belonged to France that they invaded and took. So you have Algeria, Tunisia, Ivory Coast, Cameroon, Senegal, Guinea, all of these countries, right? 72 countries, right? So a lot of the people that you're calling immigrants in France are actually there because you destroyed their land and invaded their country to begin with. That's number one. Number two is, yes, hate cannot drive out hate. You see, when something like this happens, a tragic situation, looting and doing these things, burning cars is not the way to go about it, because now you're giving them a reason to say, you see, but people are angry. You had also the footballer Mbappe. His mum is of European ancestry. His dad is of African ancestry, right? And he's one of the greatest footballers in the world right now, if not the greatest footballer in the world right now. And he plays for France, right? So he actually wrote about this, his disgust, and he's very upset. And, you know, ultimately he wants, you know, peace in that whole region in Paris, right? But he was the one that helped France win the World Cup, right? And he was even praised by Macron, right? So why I'm telling you this is because, you see, the whole world is becoming multicultural, whether you like it or not. People are mixing. And a lot of people are stuck in old ways. This person shouldn't be in my country. Well, like I told you, countries have invaded other countries. The Berlin Conference. European countries invaded the whole of Africa. That should not have happened. But it did. And you have a lot of people from Africa going to Europe because their land was destroyed and taken. So, like I say, you have to learn about history to understand, understand, and overstand why things are the way they are. Once again, what is the answer? Love is the answer. Islam actually means peace. Islam actually means peace. Islam actually means peace. It's not a violent religion. In fact, it's a very, very peaceful religion. I know a lot of Muslims who are very peaceful. I'm not a Muslim myself. I'm not even religious. I'm spiritual. But it should never be a war against Islam, because Islam actually means peace. So we've got to become mindful that you don't want to say, hey, I hate these other people, because everybody bleeds red. Everyone's a human being at the end of the day. And we have to remind ourselves of this. Everyone is a human being. Every life is precious. And the question to ask, would this have happened to someone who is French? That's another question. Would it have happened? Probably not. So we have to remind ourselves, why aren't all lives treated equally? That's a question to think about. Deep divers, I want everybody to hit that like button if you support the real. Hit that like button right now, deep divers, if you support the real. Hit that like button if you support the real. We just dive deep, real deep. And that's why I'm just saying, feels so good to be alive, baby. Can I get a hello there? Go and check out the #1 best-selling book, Feel Alive by Ralph Smart, on Amazon. And at ralphsmart.com/the book, The Bible of Becoming Your Greatest Version. Also, go and check out the latest new book, The Book of 1111 Infinite Quotes by Ralph Smart. At ralphsmart.com/the book, The Bible of Becoming Your Greatest Version as well. Also, go and check out the Good Ass Prana shirts for men, women, and children. All new limited designs at ralphsmart.com/clothes and spreadshirt.com if you're in America. Deep divers, let's remind ourselves we're all human. We're all the same. In fact, everybody bleeds red. All life is precious, and it's not about hating police officers or looting shops. We need peace in the world, but how can you expect peace when you bring an act of war on a 17-year-old? Yes, people might say, well, he should have stopped. He should have done as the police said. Yes, but I told you, if that was someone who was actually French, and that guy was French, he was born in France. But if it was someone who is French, the officer would have said, hey, I'm definitely not going to shoot you. I'm just going to book you, or, take a picture of your vehicle number. So there are double standards at play. We know this, and it has to be stopped. But like I told you, deep divers, you must be the change you wish to see in the world. Focus on yourself. Focus on yourself. I said focus on yourself. Peace. Infinite waters, diving deep once again. Stay well. Stay healthy. Peace. Yo! Once again, deep divers, hit that like button. Hit that like button if you support the real. Hit that like button if you support the real. Let love guide you, deep divers. Choose love, not war. One love. One love. Peace.